Hello everyone, thanks for joining me again on the Touch Knot channel. Today is February 28th. There's only 28 days in February this year and it's the final day. It's still MacGillivray month in February. Every day counts. So I decided to use this day to talk about a MacGillivray who was very involved in Upper Canada in the 1700s. Lots of relationships with native tribes and trading. The companies, they were called the companies up there. They were government entities, I believe, but in trade with the native tribes for furs and resources. Fur was a huge one. I don't know if there's any others, but I'm sure there were some. At any rate, this was written, I found this in a thing called Dictionary of Canadian Biography, and it's written by Mary Ann McLean. I'm not certain, but I believe she may be a relative of this man, John MacGillivray. He did marry a McLean woman. One of his marriages was to a McLean, so I think this woman, Marion, who wrote this, and I thank her for it, may be his relative. He's John MacGillivray of Dalcrombie. If you watched my talk with Ron MacGillivray, Dalcrombie was one of the main branches of MacGillivray in Scotland. Most of this takes place in Canada, in the Northern Hemisphere. Okay, let me see if I can get through this. John MacGillivray of Dalcrombie, fur trader, gentleman farmer, justice of the peace, office holder, landowner, and politician. Born in 1770 in Strathnairn, Scotland, he was the son of Farquhar MacGillivray of Dalcrombie. I believe this is the man that was at Culloden. He was 16 at the time of Culloden, I think. His mother, Elizabeth Shaw of Doris. He first married in 1796 La Façon du Pace, an Indian woman, and they had one son and one daughter. I don't know that woman's fate, but he did remarry in 1819, Isabella McLean, daughter of Neil McLean, and they had 4 sons and 4 daughters. He died at 1855 at his farm near Williamstown in Upper Canada. You don't hear the words Upper Canada much these days, but back then it was a term commonly used, I think. MacGillivray was a child of the late 18th century Highlands, born at a time of major economic change and social readjustment. He was familiar with both traditional Gaelic life and the modern commercial world. The Dalcrombies were a cadet branch of the MacGillivray clan chiefs and had been active Jacobites. Now this is referring to the 1745 rebellion. As a boy, John learned the language of the community, Gaelic, and he also received a good Scottish primary education in English. The Highlands at the time offered little opportunity for promising young men, and so when the Northwest Company partner, William MacGillivray, a distant cousin, visited Inverness on furlough from Canada, John may have decided to go with him back to Canada and join with the trading partners. The younger MacGillivray was engaged as a clerk by the Northwest Company on 18 July 1794 for a 7-year term. It sounds a little like indenturement to me, but he signed a contract or something. He served in the Lower English Churchill River Department under the direction of Alexander Fraser and was stationed at the Rat River, modern-day Goose River, Saskatchewan. In 1797, he built a house at Pelican Lake in Saskatchewan and was involved in opposing the Hudson Bay Company, a rival, I would suppose, opposed their building a post at Sturgeon Lake, Saskatchewan in the winter of 1801. The Northwest Company offensive to protect the profitable Athabasca trade, that is referring to a native tribe and language, I believe. They opened up a place called Peter Pond, a trading post. In the Lower English River Department, however, prospects were not very favorable. The English have got so fast a hold there. Relations between traders in the area were unfriendly, it goes without saying. In the spring of 1798, MacGillivray reacted to the desertion of a Northwest Company indebted servant to the Hudson Bay Company's Granville House by seizing 3 packs of furs from its master, Thomas Linklater. So they're stealing workers from each other, probably trying to outbid them for wages and such, no doubt. MacGillivray became a wintering partner in the Northwest Company at Grand Portage in 1801. It was probably then that he transferred to Athabasca River, a small department south of what was called the Athabasca Department. Although not as well known as his explorer colleagues, Thompson and Fraser, John MacGillivray was an important figure in the bitter competition between the Hudson Bay Company and the Northwest Company. For more than 20 years, he worked effectively in areas of rich returns and strong opposition. MacGillivray was a righteous man convinced of his own probity and worth, and ruled the standards of urbanity and decorum suitable to a gentleman. His administration of the Athabascans, however, was criticized by other Northwest Company partners. They're saying that he was unfairly treated, he was unfairly given exception. Had not his name been MacGillivray, he would not have received that, they were saying. Unfit to conduct an opposition suggested he was not as ruthless as some of his colleagues have written. So he may have been a victim of bad publicity, perhaps, we'll never know. On his arrival at Fort William, now Thunder Bay, Ontario, on 20 August 1816, 2 months after a massacre at a place called Seven Oaks in Winnipeg, MacGillivray was taken prisoner by Lord Selkirk and sent east under guard to join other Northwest Company partners arrested earlier. MacGillivray denied complicity in the Seven Oaks incident and pleaded his powerlessness as an individual to alter company practices. So he's saying, I'm just an innocent bystander here. I couldn't have given orders at that level. At least that's his argument. Charges against him were not pursued, and he spent the ensuing winter in Great Britain. He returned as far west as Rainy Lake, Ontario, where he organized brigade departures, but his health was weakened by rheumatism, and the aging partner retired from the Northwest Company in 1818 to settle in Upper Canada. With his purchase of a farm for £1,450 near Williamstown and his marriage to Isabella McLean, MacGillivray was drawn into the kin-based gentry of the Glengarry County and successfully established himself as a leader in the Highland community there. The retired trader held a variety of local offices, Justice of the Peace, Commissioner of the Court, and a few others. As a Presbyterian, he was an influential member of the St. Andrew's Church and was chosen an elder in 1822. He had real estate interests across the eastern part of Upper Canada, and in 1840, he paid for an advertisement to entice people to very desirable locations for sale. He also acted as financial advisor and agent to the Roman Catholic Bishop MacDonald. Only 2 major episodes broke the calm of MacGillivray's retirement. Appointed with his neighbor Alexander Fraser, he served as a member of Upper Canada's Legislative Council from 1839 until its dissolution in 41. Dismayed by the passion of self-interest that ruled some mighty would-be individuals in Toronto, MacGillivray was one of the moderate Tories who supported the Union of the Canadas. I'm unfamiliar with this, but Canada was not totally what it is now. In his own words, he willingly helped bring down the mighty doves of that place, who had at their own time and expense the loaves and fishes. Then in 1852, he returned to Scotland briefly to claim the estate of Dunmaglass in recognition as chief of the MacGillivray clan. This recognition was officially awarded to his son in 1857. As was proper for Highland gentlemen, John MacGillivray passed an active, even predatory early adulthood, but later settled down to raise a Scottish family. Although MacGillivray came from a different part of Inverness-shire than did most of the Glengarry settlers, his descent from a clan chief and his successful fur trade career assured his position as a leader of the community. Men such as MacGillivray and Fraser played a mediating role between the Gaelic-speaking county and the rest of Upper Canadian society. The inheritance of the traditional position of clan chief was a fitting seal to MacGillivray's life. Well, thank you, Marianne McLean, for this very interesting article. There's lots more to be found out about North American Native connections with the MacGillivrays, the Macintoshes, the McQueens, and I'm sure there's others in Upper Canada and in the southeast United States primarily. I'm sure there's other information about our Scots Clanhattan people and their relationships with Native American tribes. Often it consisted of a relationship due to trade, right? Fur trade with the Indians, with the natives, for which they received metal implements and tools, which were very valuable to them, in clothing, blankets, and such. So that's something I may be looking into this year, 2025, some of the Native connections with our Clanhattan members here in the U.S. and in Canada. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this about John MacGillivray in Upper Canada on the Touch Not channel during MacGillivray month in February. Please stay with us and please subscribe, my friends. Stay on the trail. Touch Not.